Hi, I'm Lauro Martinez, and I'm the Landowner Outreach and Stewardship Manager at the Hill Country Alliance. We're here today joined by our partners at the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department.
Hi, I'm Dr. Angela England. I'm a conservation biologist.
Howdy, I'm Alexis Salinas and I'm an aquatic invasive species biologist.
Today, we're in Kyle, Texas to talk about two of the most common woody invasive species found along riparian areas: Ligustrum, also known as glossy privet, and Chinaberry. These transitional bands of land between waterways like creeks and rivers and the drier upland areas are what's known as riparian areas. And although they only make up about 1% of our landscape here in Texas, they provide crucial habitat for fish and wildlife, filter runoff, and buffer the effects of droughts and floods.
A non-native invasive plant is a species that is introduced to an area that lacks the natural controls that are usually needed to keep its population in check.
These aggressive invaders will outcompete native species, harm our local ecosystems, and affect the health of our land and water.
In this video, we'll show you how to identify these plants, the best methods for their removal, and how their removal could benefit the overall health of your land and water. So let's jump into our first invasive tree species, Ligustrum, with Angela. Hey Angela, thanks for joining us. Would you mind walking us through how we could identify Ligustrum or glossy privet?
Sure. So Ligustrum lucidum is a large shrub or small tree. It can grow up to 20, maybe 30 feet in Texas. It can be found in both riparian and upland habitats. The leaves are pointed ovals, and they're glossy on the front with dark green. The back is a lighter green, and the top does have a center rib that's kind of a creamy white to off yellow. The flowers bloom in the late spring to early summer, and they're kind of a creamy white. Later on in the summer, they will form clusters of fruits that are kind of off green, and they mature into a dark blue color that stay on the tree through winter.
So why is Ligustrum such a big problem in Central Texas?
Well, each one of these trees can produce many thousands of seeds, and those seeds are attractive to birds that eat them, and then they spread those seeds to new areas in their droppings. That way, you end up with new invasions anywhere along forest edges or even fence lines.
So once you notice your property has a lot of Ligustrum, what are some ways that you would manage it and remove that population?
First of all, you don't want to let them get too big. It's important to get rid of any seeds if you have that opportunity. Just cut them off and put them in the trash. If there's only a few small trees that are on your property, you can pull them by hand. If there's a lot, be aware that many of them won't actually survive that long. So within a year or two, there will be fewer. However, you can go ahead and use a mechanical lever tool that will pull up those saplings. Just try to make sure you're getting all of the roots, because any remaining roots can resend up new sprouts. And if you don't get all of the roots and it regrows those sprouts, all of a sudden, instead of having one stem, you've got many that you have to deal with.
So if you can't manage to get all the roots out of the ground, what are some methods that you would recommend folks use to control? Well,
you can go ahead and cut the top off with either loppers, axe, or chainsaw. Some herbicides are very effective. We're not going to give you any specific recommendations on brands, but it's important that you always read and follow label directions. Those are there to protect both you and the environment. If you are using an herbicide anywhere near water, then you need to find a product that is labeled for use in either aquatic or wetland site. There are different techniques of applying the herbicide. One of those is called cut stump, where you literally cut off the upper stem of the trunk and you apply the herbicide directly to the stump. There's another method called hack and squirt, where you chop little cuts into the stem and then you squirt the herbicide. In both those cases, you need to use that herbicide very soon, like within minutes of making those cuts, so that it gets into the veins and goes back down into the roots. You can also use a foliar spray where you are squirting it onto the leaves. You generally are going to be using a diluted product at that point, where you dilute it with usually water. Read the directions and follow those calculations carefully.
Okay, what if folks are hesitant to use herbicides?
Yes, you don't have to. You definitely don't have to. There's a method we have called girdling that if this was your stem, you're cutting away a bark girdle and removing all of that tissue that takes the photosynthesis sugars down to the roots. It's easy and effective, doesn't require chainsaws. It does require repeat visits. So for the next year and a half, you're going to be going back to that plant every month or two and looking for any sprouts that then are coming up from that stem underneath where that girdle was, and you're going to knock those off. Just cut them off, knock them off. And eventually those roots will starve and die.
Interesting. So it's definitely a stubborn tree, and a key takeaway is whatever method you plan to use, plan on revisiting that tree stump or tree stand multiple times afterwards. Well, thank you so much, Angela. Let's head over to our next invasive species, which is Chinaberry, with Alexa. Hey Alexa, thanks for joining us out here today. I see that we're standing in front of a few Chinaberry trees. Can you tell us a little bit about how we could identify these plants?
Sure. Chinaberry tree can be identified by looking at the leaves, flowers, and fruits. The leaves are dark green, with leaflets arranged alternately along the stem. The flowers are lavender and star-shaped. They form in clusters and bloom in the springtime. Chinaberry fruit are round, starting as green in the summer before they turn to yellow, and they can remain on the tree until winter. The bark is red and brown or gray in color, and as the tree matures, it can form fissures. Chinaberry trees can have multiple trunks and may grow as tall as 50 feet. Chinaberry can be found in riparian areas all through Texas, as well as roadsides, forest margins, and disturbed areas. They do prefer sunny conditions, but they can tolerate partial shade.
Well, we definitely have a lot of sunny places here in Texas. What else makes a Chinaberry so invasive, and what are its ecological impacts on the land and water?
So Chinaberry produces many seeds. These seeds can be dispersed by cattle, birds, and water flow. They form dense shrouds that crowd out native vegetation. They can resprout if they are damaged. As Chinaberry grows, it changes the soil composition, and this can inhibit native vegetation growing in that area. Also, the fruits are toxic to humans, cats, and dogs.
So, if someone has a Chinaberry on their property, what are the best ways that they can remove it?
So if you have Chinaberry on your property and it is small, like a seedling or sapling, you can simply pull it out by hand or use a tree wrench when the soil is moist. Using this method, you do want to make sure that you remove all roots or it will grow back. If you have a more mature Chinaberry tree, you can girdle and strip the bark all around the trunk, or you can cut the tree down and treat the stump with herbicide. Other options include directly spraying an herbicide mix on the bark or injecting it.
Okay, so while it's similar to Ligustrum in some ways, Chinaberry brings on its own challenges, especially with how quickly it spreads and how toxic it can be to your local soil and water. Thanks, Alexa.
Of course.
Today we've covered 2 invasive trees that affect the health of riparian areas here in Central Texas, Ligustrum and Chinaberry. Each of these species spreads quickly, can displace native vegetation, and affect the overall health of your land and water.
It's really important to be able to identify each of these species. You want to make sure you're applying the correct management for that type of species.
If you're interested in learning more about any of the species that we covered today, We've linked a few resources below, including plant ID guides, safe herbicide use info, and other resources we found useful when creating this video.
And if you'd like to take a look at other invasive species that affect riparian areas here in Central Texas or the Hill Country, feel free to take a look at our other videos on the Hill Country Alliance's YouTube page. Thank you and take care.